The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell. That's Peyton Jones. We're picking it up right where we were. Go for it.
Right. So, hey, guys, we were in the middle of a conversation. We didn't hit record. So welcome to the Church Planter Podcast. I'm your host, Peyton Jones, and I'm here with Pete Mitchell. And we were talking about the First Amendment. And to catch you up, we were just talking a little bit about I'm less concerned about Facebook and Twitter saying that that they have a policy and we got to abide by it. I'm less concerned. What I'm more concerned about right now is that we are probably entering into a time where the government is going to start telling you what you can and cannot say. For example,
welcome to the UK.
Right. After this now, after what happened at the Capitol, what will probably happen is they will say that false information kills and that it's now a safety issue. And therefore, like when you try to legislate evil and crime out of humanity, it doesn't work. But if you remember, in this country, during the American Revolution, we had loyalists who believed that the king had a right to rule, and the seditionists, we would call our founding fathers, who believe, no, it is that all men are created equal. Now, I will state to you that it was pretty well accepted, the divine right of kings. At that point, that they took that from the Bible. They believed that God raised kings up, that they called him a sovereign for a reason, because God had sovereignly enabled them to rule, yada, yada, yada. And the founding fathers, and this is where I'm going with this, it was a False Information Act. Had that existed at that time, which I'm sure something like unto it existed, you could say, well, that's false information. That's going to get people killed. With that kind of restriction on people, I mean, if you look at the news today, most of our news, quote unquote, is opinion pieces. They're just opinions, Most news today coming from whether it's right or left is gossip rag. A reputable source close to the administration tells us that Trump had a temper tantrum, or someone close to Pelosi has noticed that she has a drinking problem. It's all gossip and hearsay. None of it's true. Conspiracy theories, 99% of those aren't true. And so we're at a place now where, God help us, if other people are going to be,
well, they'll say the same thing about
what's true.
They'll say the same thing about anything religious. It's false information. You can't prove that
exactly
any of that happened. And, Jesus didn't walk on water. And I mean,
well, like, for example, let's go into anything. Let's say things like, let's say the LGBT issue. Now, I am, when we pastored Long Beach, I mean, 1/3 of our people in the church at any one given time were from the LGBT. And we didn't soft pedal the gospel. We didn't take out Romans 1 or 2. I mean, we were very faithful to Scripture, but we were kind of like, for people, they would find God, and their life would start. God would start working on all different areas of their life, throughout, like anyone else, right? Like, you come to Christ, you repent of. You don't repent of necessarily everything. I know there's people out there, well, you have to. You repent of what you know, right? And then as sanctification goes on, right, you continually repent. I mean, I don't think you ever stop repenting as a Christian. I certainly haven't.
Not when you're honest with yourself. You're like, oh yeah, Jesus ain't too happy with that move right there.
But you And people have talked about this for a long time, that just saying that God, even if you kept it as simple as God has a simple plan for your life, or God has a different plan for your life. I believe God has a different plan. I believe the Bible teaches God has a different plan for your life, and wants to restore you, yada, yada. That would be seen as hate speech. It would be seen as untrue. They could say, well, scientists have said, which for years we were told that science was on the side of justifying homosexual orientation, where recently they came back and said, actually, there's no proof for that. All the studies have demonstrated that there actually is no proof that it's nature. It may be nurture. And I have those articles, which came from, mainstream scientific community, was in National Geographic, was in Scientific American.
I'm surprised they put it out.
Well, and that's the thing, right? We're, again, these things become politicized. And so when the government begins this was what we were meant, like, I don't care if you call it false information. Most opinions are considered by those who do not hold them as false information. And when it comes to America, we're just a bunch I love what Rich Mullins said. Rich Mullins put it this way. He said, only God is true. The rest of us are just guessing, right? Only God holds the truth. So most of what you and I think, Pete, we're guessing, we're doing our best. Like everybody else out there is guessing. So when a bunch of people that are guessing want to tell us what's true, and make laws about what you can and can't say, I get a little nervous,
Well, that's one of the reasons. I mean, I look at a lot of the stuff that we see happening in the UK, people being arrested for what they tweet, for liking tweets. Iran, oh my gosh, dude, you liked the wrong Facebook post, you might be disappeared. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I look at that and I'm like, that is just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Twitter and Facebook, I don't care. I don't care if they want to say, hey, that's against our policy. I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, I mean, our government and I don't have a problem with even cancel culture. That's nothing new. That's always been around. This is my view of humanity and society. Society has never grown beyond a high school mentality. Always in high school, if you remember, there was a small group of people, the cool kids or the elite crowd on your high school campus. They somehow had clicked into what was cool and what was in. Everybody wanted what was, what they had, and they were popular, and everybody was in awe of them. The overwhelming majority, 96, 97, maybe even 98% of your high school campus was not in that crowd.
Well, let me just say, those of us that were in the 1%, it's because of how attractive we were.
That is true, and I did notice that about you. But and society is very much the same, right? Is that somehow there's a small group of people. I don't know what the psychology of this is. They define, and somehow everybody accepts these values. Somehow everybody accepts that these things are so, and everybody else falls in line, accepts the system, but most people are. They don't actually operate by those values. And that's how I see society. Somehow we've just created another version in society, particularly with Facebook, Twitter, social media, Instagram. It's all about being liked and being popular. Yeah. And it's almost taken, in high school, I could remember being.
By the way, Steve, cool. You're a jerk. Did you see what he said?
No.
Steve goes, so where did it all go wrong for you, Pete Mitchell? Meaning I'm no longer attractive.
That's so funny. That's great. So, but here's the thing, man, is that, at some point, I can remember in high school, like I wasn't cool. I had hair down to my butt. I dressed like I was in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That was kind of my jam. And, in fact, I should throw some pictures up on Facebook. I don't want to threaten you and scare you all, but
when you had hair, it's actually really quite funny seeing those pictures of you.
It is. I'll throw a picture up later today
because you do look like Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's just hilarious.
That was my jam.
Just a really short version.
I wanted to have pair of chaps. No, it's all right because I was incredibly sexy and handsome, so it was all right. But I had this I had this dream, like if I could get what Flea had from the Chili Peppers, he had a like set of chaps that he planned that was made out of stuffed animals. Now that would have been my fashion statement back then. Cruise onto campus, maybe have a big cowboy hat made out of stuffed animals. That would have been legit. But anyways, so but you know, I wasn't trying to be popular. I wasn't trying to be cool. I wasn't trying to be anything. I was just, I remember thinking, yeah, you guys are lame. You know, this high school's lame. I'm here because I have to be. That was my attitude. And in fact, in order to graduate, I had to go to ROP. You remember ROP? It was like almost like trade school, so you could graduate on time. So I went to ROP afterwards in health sciences, which is how I became a nurse. Because I had to graduate in the electronics course. My car had blown up and I couldn't make it to Mission Viejo, where I had to go for that on a Saturday. So I was like, well, I can make it with a buddy of mine over to Westminster nursing home. And so I'd go to this nursing home every day after school to graduate on time and watch old people die. Now, I'm going to tell you something, man. If you ever need something to kind of sober you up from a high school mentality, you go do ROP after school where you show up, you know, on Tuesday and Mr. Johnson's not there anymore because Mr. Johnson died on Monday after you left. You know, a guy that you interacted with every day and you watch people dying, you heard their regrets and you heard them saying, if I could do it all over again, don't waste your youth, yada, yada. It just makes you think, man. So that was a gift in and of itself. But we're digressing off the topic. I think that's because I'm talking. Those two things usually synonymous.
I don't even know what the topic was anymore.
We didn't have one, and man, that was that was like
we skipped right past smack talk and went right into the topic.
Well, it was like when Philip Yancey was on. Jumping into that conversation, I was a little bit late to that one.
Hey, Philip, and then you just insist on calling him Phil the rest of the call every time. Philip. Sorry, Philip.
Yeah, it's the day that we made Philip Yancey mad, and I love that dude. So no shade cast his way. He's awesome. He was way out of our league. I mean,
what am I doing on these guys' podcast?
I know how many people thought that once they got on our podcast, like because we weren't any different. We do this.
The thing is, and this was a credit to us. We were 8 years ahead of the curve. Right. So now everyone's got a podcast. And back then it was like, oh, you want me on a podcast? Well, I heard about these newfangled things. I should go be a guest on your show.
And it was Church Planter Magazine. Man, did we sound fancy.
I know, right?
You know, but I'll never forget Pete's on there. And I'm like a couple minutes late, as per usual back in those days. And Pete's holding down the fort as Philip Yancey showing up to this podcast, all professional, ready to talk about his new book. And I clicked the link. And for some reason in my head, I was like a dropship trooper. And, you know, I was dropping into battle.
Was it jump school? Be honest.
No,
it was jump school.
I went like this. I had my headphones on. Remember we used to have the fancy headphones? I had them on. And I drop into the call and I go.
No one could hear you. Your mic like cut out when you did that.
Oh, did it? Yeah, so I'll do it back here.
Wow, what mic are you using? It sucks.
What's it doing? I got a good mic.
Did you even?
I think my settings are wrong.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I think. It's muffling whatever in the background.
On your Zoom thing where it has a little mute button and the up caret. Yeah. Click on that and see what mic is selected.
Samson G Pro.
It is the right one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have something where it mutes the background noise because I got power tools going. So that's why I was amazed you couldn't.
Oh, that's probably why it's doing it.
That's what, if it goes. Yeah. So I'll do it quietly. This will be my sultry version of.
Do church planners get free t-shirts because that's why I'm here? Rob Goodell says that. So yes, they're free, but it's only $29.99 for shipping.
What are you selling on Facebook Live that I'm not aware of right now? What's happening?
I don't know. All I did was post our podcast like I normally do, but it's a Wednesday. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's Wednesday, and they're doing a podcast. Let's show up."
Yeah, but Rob, if you get that T-shirt, man, it says "Mi Dragon."
That's a flashback, man.
We're
talking like first 50 episodes.
Mi dragon.
Yeah.
Mi rapido.
We were talking on the podcast, and I'm like, look, I had to take, like, literally, for those who've heard the story, it took me 10 years to graduate from college. 10. Like, most people are doctors when they go to college for 10 years. It's because 5 of the years I needed a Spanish class, and I failed it every time. It was the one class I needed to graduate. And so the only thing that I learned from Spanish that I can still hold to today is mi dragón es muy rápido, which is the one line I remember from the whole, 5 years of taking Spanish.
And it's like me with French. My worker here at the house thinks it's hilarious I get kicked out of Spanish. Because I told him I wish I knew more, but I literally got banned from taking Spanish at Marina High School.
Why?
I guess I was such a bad student. I hardly ever came to class. We talked about ROP. I ditched school like nonstop. And I had this system where I used to bribe the detention ladies. There were 2 of them. I'm sure I'd like to say they're with Jesus now, but they were up there a bit. And we are talking like 40, no, I'm not 60, 30 years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago. I'm almost 50. And so I would bring them, like, I'd go across the street to Save-Ons, and I would buy like potpourris, like in the little like glass with the little fancy silver cap on it. And I'd give them those, and they'd be like, oh, okay, I'm not making this up. They'd be like, okay, we'll take off 2 Saturday schools. So Breakfast Club, I had 6 months of Breakfast Club. I was like John Bender, that's another one. I can keep this going all day. You ever seen Breakfast Club?
You mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns.
That's the one. There's one more. Yeah, that was me. And it was because at a certain number of ditching classes, they have to roll them into Saturday schools for you to actually serve enough detention. So they should have just kicked me out of school. But come that fateful day, I got called into the office, and they said, hey, you're not going to graduate. You're going to have to repeat your senior year unless... Because that's when you go to school at like 7 a.m, you get off at like 11. That's what I did. I took 0 period, and then I took up through 4th. Then I was done for the day. I took those because you could take 5 classes senior year. And homeboy had to go to ROP class afterwards and spend every afternoon. That's how that happened.
You got to be careful when you yell, because that mic setting just cuts you out when you do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So
no excited preaching on this podcast.
No. Okay. Well, that duly noted. So anyways, I don't know where I was going with that.
Oh, there was no point. Just like our smack talk usually has no point.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So that was it, man. I had this system worked out. So I never, Spanish. So I was kicked out of Spanish class because I never, I never was there. And so when I did show up, I remember the teacher taking me aside and saying, you're not taking Spanish. I'm like, I need a foreign language. She goes, yeah, no, you're never taking Spanish in this department. I will not have you. She was over the Spanish program. She was like, I won't have you in any of the classes here. You can take French or German. I'm like, okay. I guess so. I'm thinking, all I know is Ich bin ein Berliner. Can't do any romancing with that one. So I'll take French.
I took Greek at Biola because I was like, I won't have to speak it. So if I just take biblical Greek, all I got to do is learn how to read it. That was just as bad as Spanish. That was a huge mistake in my life.
How can we never think about the fact that nobody ever busts out like fluent Greek, biblical Greek? I know it's a dead language, but it's not the same, by the way, if you're listening. It's not the same as what they speak in Greece today. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what's been going on in your life, Pete Mitchell?
I don't know, man. Nothing, everything. Since our last podcast, I had that other surgery.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
It was good. I'm still alive. So, that's always a positive.
Best thing about when they do surgery is all the ice cream. You get ice cream?
No. I limit my ice cream intake to once a week.
Did they give you ice chips?
No. Someone was asking me
about the gas.
Someone was asking me, did they, how long did they let you recover before they sent you home? I'm like, dude, they wheeled me out on the corner while I was still under. Like, he's out. He's out. which isn't all that untrue too. I'm not kidding. Like, yeah, I was still out of it when they wheeled me out.
Every night I do this thing with my kids where I do a funny video. Have we talked about that? And sometimes I take them through like the Lego Bible. Have you ever seen that thing?
Hmm.
So we'll do like the little quiet time and then we'll do that. But man, I am telling you, we'll do funny videos. And the ones where like people are getting woken up, like guys that fall asleep at work and they just get woken up and startled, and people's reactions when they're awoken in public places. Oh my gosh, those are the best. Those are funnier than almost anything else, except any video that has not immoral. It's just
okay. You were cutting out there at the end, so I thought you had more to say on that.
Why am I cutting out?
It's your mic.
What is going on with my mic?
You're trying to tell the big tech companies to automatically mute loud things. Well, big tech now mutes everything they want to mute. So
yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway,
I don't have any smack talk. Nothing happened to me this week.
I had someone invite me to the January 6th event in DC. A friend of mine was trying to get me to go out there. I'm like, wow. First of all, I'm not a Trump supporter, those who listen to the podcast. And this person knew I didn't vote for Trump too. But they know I'm a conservative. So, they figured, hey, come out anyway. But I'm really glad I didn't go to that because I could have seen myself going, oh, dude, cool. Everyone's walking in the Capitol. I want to see the Capitol. I've never seen the Capitol before. Like, I wouldn't even be thinking about it. Like, we're in there to destroy the thing. I'd just be like, oh, wow. So, because, everyone's walking in between the red ropes. I would have been like, yeah, take out the cameras, take pictures. So,
man, that's so funny. I did go to the Capitol years ago as an adult with my wife. And all I can remember is being like, oh, yeah, the Capitol, cool. That's there. That's big. Wow, those steps are big. But there was Amish people there. And they got off a bus. And I had never met Amish people. I'd seen Witness with Harrison Ford because, hello, Star Wars, right? But a bit disappointed when I saw it as a kid, though, that, hey, he's not got a laser gun in this. And I was that young. I was like, what? But no bullwhip, no fedora. But I had to talk to these Amish people. And I'm like, whoa, because they got off a bus. Like, they didn't wheel up in a horse and buggy. So I was like, okay, help me out here. So all I remember that night is chatting with Amish people about when they cheat.
About what?
When they cheat on electricity, they cheat. I'm like, well, sometimes, we have to use modern conveniences.
See, when you said when they cheat, I'm thinking like the cheater show, like when they step out on their spouse. I'm like,
that's because I mentioned Witness, and she cheats with Harrison Ford.
Wait a second here. You mean like they got a whole protocol when they cheat? Like they're willing to talk about this openly?
First, we shave his beard. Then we take his suspenders. We're gonna get. Oh no, we're not gonna get any Amish complaints, are we?
That so reminds me of Leviticus. Pete, we haven't seen you outside the camp. Is everything all right there at home? You remember that conversation?
No.
Oh, you were doing through the Bible for Leviticus, right? Do you remember that? Wasn't it Leviticus?
Yeah, it was through the word. Yeah, through the word.
Yeah. And, there's certain, when you have marital relations, you had to leave the camp. And I remember going, I'd be like pissed, and people would be like, Pete, we haven't seen you outside the camp in a while. Is everything all right there at home?
Everything all right at home? Everything cool between you and the wife? You haven't been unclean for weeks.
We haven't seen you out there. Peyton's like, I practically live outside the camp. What's up? What's going on?
Oh, man.
Oh, the Bible is so fun.
Have I mentioned that on Through the Word right now, I'm going through Song of Solomon?
Are you recording it? It's not live, is it?
Oh, no, it's not live yet. No, but let me say
something. Her hair is like a goat, a beautiful goat.
And her teeth is like a flock of sheep. And they are all there.
I cannot wait to hear how you go through Song of Solomon.
Oh my gosh. So I'm having these, because I'm sexually, like, I'm bashful, man. Like, I'm not like, you're my friend. I don't, sexual jokes are not my thing. But here's the funny thing, right? I'm going through this thing, and it's a poem. It's like a parable. There are layers to this thing, and intentionally so. So if you're 10 and you're reading Song of Solomon, you get what you're supposed to get out of it. If you're 20 and you're going through it, you get what you're supposed to get out of it. And if you've been married for many years and you read those same passages, you get what, like, there are layers. There is like a PG rating on if you're reading it with a certain innocence level. There is a R rating, and then there's like an X rating. And this book was a masterpiece. I know it's a Song of Songs. Some people think it's Solomon. I'm thinking it had to be Solomon wrote this thing, because it is a masterpiece. It's like a parable where you come to it and you either get it or you don't. It is something that is very much on, it's a revealed, it's not stated expressly. And there are some racy passages in there that, until I started studying it, I was like, oh, I have never seen that before. My goodness, that's quite detailed.
Interesting.
We ain't talking about door latches here anymore. We're talking about something else. So
That's funny, man. You got to tell me when that thing comes out on Through the Word.
I will, but I was talking to Andrew, and I'm like, I have to keep this thing and focus on the family level here. Like, I can't be, hey, by the way, like, I can't bring myself to talk like that. And Song of Solomon is written the way it was written for a reason. And I point that out at the beginning and say, hey, it's like a parable. There's very much about what's revealed to you. You either get it or you don't. But it is amazing to me that the innocence of the reader is protected. And of course, that's the point of Song of Solomon, is it's like the Garden of Eden. It's innocent. You enter into the Garden of Eden when you're reading that book, where sexual things are within the confines of that walled garden. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. It's pretty rad.
Interesting.
It's kind of a masterpiece, yeah. So I'm enjoying prepping for that and getting ready for that. So, yeah, it's been cool.
Good times are had by all.
Little uncomfortable at times.
That's funny, man. I got to go back and reread it. I just remember thinking, and her hair was like that of a goat. This was like, this is great, man.
I remember, we used to punk our youth pastors because we were like the bad news bears. I mean, these were all the kids that were like addicts and like the kids that got expelled in my youth group. Anyone listening from my youth group will remember, like, there was a girl that blacked out, had a heart attack in class, and cocaine, like these.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much drugs was that girl doing?
Yeah. She was doing cocaine. She blacked out 8 days. Like, it was kind of an urban legend. She was in our youth group. There was a guy that wrapped a truck around a telephone pole. He used to have Alcoholica spray painted all over his truck, and all the druggy kids, they all got saved. So like it was funny because we were a bunch of punks. So we would do all this terrible stuff during youth group, and we'd write, a bunch of us were musicians. I wasn't. I mean, I thought I could sing, but started drumming for a bit. But we used to write songs about our youth leaders and then play them. And then they'd go, hey guys, it's just, come on, don't do this, disrespectful. We used to sing the girl parts, like back then, like worship songs, they'd have the girl parts and the boy parts. We would sing the girl parts. We thought that was funny. And then we had a Swedish guy that went to the church. We would talk like him. We'd pretend to be him teaching the Bible study our pastor just gave. And we'd be laughing so hard, we'd be crying. We were terrible, dude. Like, we went down to Garden Grove Boulevard to do like ministry in like outside the gay bars, sing Christmas carols. And we found some really weird people. We decided like the next week we'd go stake them out. And we did, like, it was terrible, dude. We were the bad news bearers of youth groups, and we loved the Lord, but we just had like this wicked streak. And but there would be nights where our youth pastor would be like, hey, do you guys want to you want to, any questions you have, I'm not going to teach your Bible time. I'm just going to take your questions. And we would look for the verses that were the most difficult verses. Like I remember one guy, he picks the verse out of, what was it, Ecclesiastes, where it's like, drown your sorrows, alcohol will do it, wine will help ease the pain. And he's bringing us up, and our youth pastor's like swimming, like, what it means, John, because they would do the whole kind of obtuse, like, we would do what was that guy on TV? Columbo?
Yeah.
But I don't understand, and we keep doing that. We just mess with him. He was rad. Like, I feel bad even saying all this because our youth group was awesome. But we picked that verse out. What should we do? And I think it's like chapter 8, Song of Songs. What should we do for our sister has no breasts? And we would ask him, and he would just look at us and go, all right, next. And then he'd be like, we need to talk afterwards. So we learned.
But I remember being like a little kid and like either calling you or voxing you and being like, Deuteronomy 11, right? And I'd be like, you gotta look at that verse. Dude, it was funny.
Yes, they are in there. But that's what I love about, like that passage I just mentioned about the brothers. That's an awesome passage. Like when you understand it. And I wish, back then, like you go back in time, it would have been a rad teaching moment for him to be like, well, let me explain that to you because it actually matters to you guys right here. This actually means something. Yeah, it would have been cool. But yeah, the Bible, the more you dig into it, the more you read it, the more you're like, because I want to be very clear, there's not a wasted word in there. Like every jot and tittle in there, like Jesus said, is amazing and precious. And trust me, this is a guy
except for the genealogy. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
No, dude.
10 chapters of names. Come on.
Dude. So you want to know that was amazing. That was God's goodness to me because just so you guys know, I had to do 1st and 2nd Chronicles this year. And yeah, there's 9 chapters, man, of genealogy. And each day that I would come to that as like, I have to do it through the word on this chapter genealogy, God would just give me these nuggets. And I'd be like, this is awesome. So yeah. So I got to say, every day that I went there, I was surprised at what I found in there. Because for them, they knew this.
Sure.
What I was discovering, this was just common knowledge to their culture. So when they read that, their mind, and that's what I brought up, is their mind was popping off. They had this oral tradition. They knew all these stories. It was part of being Jewish. You had to memorize they knew all this stuff. So when they saw those names, that stuff popped in their memory. And it actually communicated to them the story about God and how he revealed himself to them. So even that was cool. So yeah. So
are we going to actually have a topic on this podcast, or is this the topic?
Well, the topic was meant to be today discipleship. So I don't know if this is just the worst podcast ever.
It's what happens when all of a sudden I get a text from Peyton. By the way, I can't record until the 13th of January. Oh, okay.
Well, it has been a wonderful, I might be a little rusty after that break, let me tell you. But yeah, so, well, we can get into discipleship. I mean, we got 20 minutes. We got to stop spending 40 minutes on our smack talk.
But really, I don't think we were that long, not on the podcast. Maybe, we're only 36 minutes live online, and it was like 3 or 4 minutes of us chatting before we even recorded for the podcast.
That's true. And the world did fall apart. So funny enough, I do a webinar every other week with Daniel Yang. And
with who?
When all that was Daniel Yang.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's director of Send Institute. Really awesome guy. I mean, if I ever, how like I'd written the textbook.
Do you do it for Exponential? Who are you doing it for?
Yeah, it's for Exponential. So they approached me and said, hey, who would you want in the church planning world as your guest or your guest host? And really, he was my first pick. So I was really happy he said yes, because I used to work with that guy at Send before when they brought him on to do the Send Institute, which researches mission. But he's just super cool, super down to earth, super cool, super knowledgeable, very gifted. And so he makes me look good, right? He's way smarter than I am.
It's kind of like how I make you look good. Gotcha.
Totally. Well, without you, this thing wouldn't happen, right? So
that's just because no one knows how to upload it except for me. I hit the upload button, and you don't know how to
upload it now. I do.
Who do you use?
I was using Libsyn, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I was using.
Welcome
Libsyn.
to the club.
I did it for a while, although I don't think I did. No, I didn't do. You've always done this, but I remember I was handling like whoever it was we're using to pay for it for a while. Remember that? Back in the day.
What do you mean?
Do I still pay for the podcast? I don't remember.
No, I do.
Oh, okay. I did it for a while, didn't I?
Yeah, you paid for it for a while when you were, I think you had a sponsor or something.
Yeah.
And so you took on the bill, the $20 a month.
Yeah.
Ooh, big spender.
Maybe after today's episode, it's not a good time to say, hey, by the way, we're taking sponsors. Hey, man, we're 8 years into this. We've talked about everything for 8 years. So, I
should go back and really re-listen to those first like 10 episodes just to hear how bad we were back in the day.
Oh man, this is the thing. I almost feel we were probably better back then. We were definitely wilder. I think now.
I don't know. I remember
we're
you
almost 10 years older, dude.
It was like episode 4, and you're like, I can't make it, but I got Chris Langham to do it. So why don't you talk to him about Through the Word? Like, literally
today, if I had known I was going to talk about Through the Word today, I would have had Chris on to talk about Through the Word. Maybe today should just be a catch-up episode, or should we get into discipleship? I'm good either way, but
hey, you're in charge of content. I'm color commentary. That's
I'm making
the
it
rules.
up as I go, brother. I'm making it up as I go. Yeah,
My job is to go, I dig it. That's my job. I got it right there. I'm done.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well,
see, what everybody missed before we started recording on the podcast is I could see behind Peyton for the first time. I'm like, you got the Apocrypha on your back shelf. He's like, no, I don't. I go, yeah, you do. It's in that. It's Apocrypha's in there. And he looks at it and he's like, oh, yeah, I do have the Apocrypha. None of that 66 only books for us.
I like how the prophets is called the writings.
Oh, is that what it is? I don't even remember. I got mine, but it's on another shelf.
The writings are the poetries, the Psalms and Proverbs.
Oh, okay.
Ecclesiastes and Thomas.
I can tell you've cracked open that Bible when you're like,
oh yeah. I use it every day. Yeah. Didn't even know the Apocrypha was in it.
See, here's the cool thing. This is what I was sharing before. That was from, I don't even remember what the guy called it, but it was a Kickstarter campaign where he was like, one of the problems that people have is we got all these verse numbers. And so we're taking the original American Standard version of the Bible and we're stripping out all of the verse numbers, and we're just letting people be able to read the Bible the way it was originally written, just obviously in English. And so that we don't have it all broken up. And he ended up collecting like $1.5 million from that Kickstarter because everyone loved this idea. And that's why they broke it up the way they did. And I was looking at it going, this is brilliant. The dude take a public domain version of the Bible, a translation of the Bible, and ends up selling $1.5 million worth of it. I'm like, it's brilliant as a marketer. So
yeah, that was kind of brilliant. Wasn't it?
And it took them a long time to come out with it because they had to modernize the American Standard version because of we don't talk that same way as that version.
Right. Yeah, I think it sounded like a really good idea up front. It was kind of remember that.
I wonder if he actually made a profit or if he ended up having to spend most of it to produce it.
I wonder, because I'm sure he had to pay a pretty chunk of change. I mean, it's a nice set.
That's the thing. It's a nice set. It's very nice.
It must have done okay, though, because I saw it advertised recently again.
No kidding.
And it has a wooden box around it. By the way, guys, we have decided on the fly. This is just going to be a catch-up smack talk.
Welcome to the Church Planter Podcast, everybody. I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And today we're just doing catch-up.
Yeah, catch-up, smack talk, New Year. So, one thing I did do was go away during the.
Okay, Joel Barker says, I've been listening since the first episode. This is definitely not the worst episode. So I want to know what was the worst episode. That's where my mind is going.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it. If you said that only for me, I appreciate that because I feel a little ashamed that we've come back. I had discipleship ready to go for your church plant, and we didn't do it. But I guarantee you, next week will be the best ever episode we've ever done.
This year.
Joel.
This year.
Yeah. Joel, I just got to ask you, since you've been with us for 8 years, are you normal? We love and abuse our audience. Of course, you know that already. I think that's what you like about us. But yeah, so I went away and it was so weird, man. I think I mentioned this. If you guys want real ministry talk, go over to Ministry Ninja Podcast, which we've been doing, and come back here next week.
And when he says we, he doesn't mean me, because then it wouldn't be real ministry talk.
No, Andrew and I and Barry. So it's got a little Welshness on it.
How is Barry doing?
He's doing awesome, dude. But they're on lockdown. So yeah, I mean, and it's rough there. So like for them, they couldn't leave their house on Christmas. So they were in lockdown. They basically canceled any Christmas gatherings, period. And if you were found outside your house on Christmas, you got a fine, dude.
So has Melissa wised up? Has she realized the error of her ways?
With Barry?
What other mistake is there in her life?
Or with Whale?
No, I gotta imagine Wales is so. I gotta imagine Wales is so beautiful that I honestly don't see how that could be a mistake going to Wales.
It's the people, it's the place. I'm telling you, it is just every day I wake up every day and just think to myself, I should get a T-shirt. I'd rather be in Wales. That'd be cool.
Just make sure they spell Wales right. Or that T-shirt could take on a whole different meaning.
Or it could be the slide you put up for the Jonah study. That's all I'm saying.
You know where I'd really like to go? I'd really like to go to Ireland.
Yeah.
Northern Ireland. I'd like to go spend some time.
I lived in Wales for 12 years, and I went to Ireland once on a day trip. I just took a boat, went over there, saw some stuff, drank some Guinness, came home. I wasted that.
Well, as a Christian, I would never drink beer.
Huh?
What?
Guinness tastes different in Ireland.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, it does taste different. Someone told me that, and I went, and that's why I got one, because I thought, because I was a firefighter at the time, and I thought, I just every time we do a fire call, that was the funny thing, is they'd always go to the pub after what they call a shout. So you go stinky and sweaty and have a pint of beer and go home.
That's funny.
Some guys that have more than a pint of beer, but I'd only have one. But yeah,
I should be working for NAM right now. I haven't had a beer in 2 years.
You should be.
2 years. I would meet their criteria.
Yeah, man. Release that inner Southern Baptist.
What would you do for $1,000?
Oh man.
Do you remember that conversation?
Yes,
I'm not going to go into it anymore.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Oh man.
If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that's our safe word. So you know a podcast is good when it has to have a safe word.
That to me, that's the funniest thing, right? What's your podcast? Church Planner Podcast. Oh, and we have a safe word when we're going too far.
Hey, speaking of safe words, and did I send you that clip of the guy who streaked through the Ultimate Ninja Challenge?
Yes.
American Ninja.
Yes.
And he had red hair. And I was like, he has done a great service to your people. He is honored the redhead prize.
I was like,
that was a mighty feat.
Wouldn't you hate to be the guy after him? And what if you didn't get as far as this streaker who, like, he went really far.
He was good.
He was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, I would hate to be the guy after him. And what if you like blow it on the first obstacle and that guy made it almost to the end?
I was dying when I saw that, especially when he hits that wall where you got to do the splits on the commentator's like, oh.
I think that was in Las Vegas. Wasn't it in Las Vegas?
It was. And it had to have been planned though. That could not have.
It kind of felt like it, but it was so funny. The commentators'
reactions though seem legit.
They probably didn't know.
I don't think they knew.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty darn funny watching them on that.
Yeah.
So, but But yeah, so Andrew and I went away. We celebrated a birthday, and then it's funny, man, because in January 2020, I was sick as a dog. I think I've mentioned. I'm pretty sure I had COVID. I got it at the Portland airport. It got stranded there overnight, and then ended up heading to Oregon, where normally like we'll go out there for a week or two, go out in the snow. My brother-in-law's got a condo up there, and I was so sick I couldn't make any goals. Well, then COVID hits. It's like it wouldn't have done any good anyways. Plus, I was still working on that textbook. But this year, if you listen to the last podcast we did, I'm pretty sure I talked about forward planning and goals. I don't keep track, but man, this has just been an amazing year for planning. I am ready to go, brother. I'm back to my old systems, back to ready to do it, man. So it's good.
Nice.
Yeah. Plus, I got a textbook coming out in April. Did I mention that?
Wait. You have another book coming out?
I have a book, Pete. It's called Church Plantology, and it's coming out. But it's funny. I will probably in future shift after either one of two things. Either I'll write a part 2 to that book, which I don't know if we'll see how that book does. But I have enough content to write a whole like second level, which could be like, now that you've got this foundation, here's the next principles or whatever, or building deeper on them. But now that I'm doing Through the Word, as my day job, I got to tell you, man, I am thinking I'm going to start writing some very low-level commentaries, kind of like Warren Wiersbe did. Have you ever seen his B series?
What does it mean when you say I do Through the Word all day? Like, does that mean you're prepping or recording audios, or do you do other stuff for Through the Word?
Yeah. So my role is really content management for them, kind of like it was with Exponential. So what I'm doing with them is, obviously I've got audio guides. They have those audio guides. So I produce a certain number of them. Also, if you go to YouVersion, you'll usually find one of our, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's really loud behind me.
Yeah.
But, what they've got is they've got these Bible Basics Explained, which are like hook level, entry level pieces of content, like usually 3 days, 10 minutes each. What does the Bible have to say about prayer? What does it have to say about salvation? What is it, real entry level, basic believer stuff. And so I'll produce those. Dude, that is so loud. Can you hear it? I'll be really
no, because it's doing its job. But by the way, Adam Richardson, he reminded us we didn't say cha-ching.
Wait, what?
We didn't say cha-ching.
Oh, thanks.
Mentioned your book.
See, that's how I'm getting rusty. This is the first day back in the new year, so maybe we get a hall pass, but cha-ching. So, but I want to write these and I want to call them like Bible Ninja commentaries. I don't think anyone would have to self-publish these things.
You know what you should just do? Oh, here you go. Here's a cool idea. Take all of your audio recordings, transcribe them.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I have to not handwrite, but I type up all my scripts. And
do you really?
Yeah.
Wow, you really prepared.
Oh, dude.
Here would be me. Okay, let me bust out the Bible here. Okay, I got to talk about this now. All right, here we go.
Well, think about it. So I've got Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and what I would do is build them out a little bit, but I don't want to make these big, giant, fat. Warren Wiersbe came on the scene, and what he did is he distilled years of ministry into something that was more devotional, and everything in a good sermon was in there. So a lot of guys copied him, which isn't good because you're not going to grow that way. But if you ever wanted to learn how to exposit and apply the Bible and illustrate it, Warren Wiersbe's B series is amazing. But I don't
think I have his B series. You told me to get one of them for Wayne.
Like this set right here. I don't know. Can you see it?
Yeah.
That set right there these are his sermon outlines.
Those are see, I don't think it's the sermon outlines.
With the word, little something on every chapter. But anyways, I'm quickly starting to head into that. But something that Tyrone, White Tyrone had
formerly known,
the church planter formerly known as White Tyrone.
Yeah, there you go.
He doesn't like to be called White Tyrone. But he once said,
even though he introduced himself to us that way.
"Hey, I'm Tyrone. I'm the only white Tyrone you'll ever meet." I'll never forget that. How do you ever forget that, right?
And then how do you have a problem when we call him White Tyrone? That's how you introduce yourself to us.
He didn't know who he's dealing with. He didn't know that from then on he would be dubbed White Tyrone. But then,
I love how he has to sit down with us. All right, guys, don't call me White Tyrone. And what do we do on the very next podcast? The church planner, formerly known as White Tyrone.
Hey, we respect Prince and we respect you, Tyrone. So, anyways, but I remember him saying once, he's like, "Hey, man, is there any tool that planners?" Because when you're jumping into a church plant, right? Like you either have been studying the Bible for years and are ready to go, or like Tyrone, where he was like, "Hey, it came from a Pentecostal charismatic movement." And that wasn't really the emphasis. Now, hey, guys from a word-based movement, hey, bust out a miracle, right? Tyrone did what Tyrone could do. He used his gifts. But he was like, is there anywhere? So I'm wrestling through, do I do something? Because one of my dreams would be to go through and apply principles out of every chapter of the Bible to church planting. Because I know that you're hearing that, and I hear it too. It sounds like it would be forced, but it's not. It's literally not. The principles that you find in the Bible seep their way, because church planting is not its own thing. That's the amazing thing about church planting. Church planting is not its own topic. Church planting is a part of it's the advancement of the kingdom. Well, what's the Old Testament about? From the Garden of Eden to the establishment of Israel, the rise and decline, the establishment of the kingdom. To John the Baptist coming and announcing it's the establishment of the kingdom. So all of these things, when you think about it, this is just the latest incarnation of the expansion of the kingdom. So part of me is like always thought, well, I could go through and do, but I think it's too narrow. So I just want to maybe do something that's kind of like a wider, broader, just, hey, this is the Bible. And then if that stuff's laced throughout there, great, but not have it be for church planners specifically.
Interesting.
Not really, but I was filling time. But hey, it's time to sign off.
Well, then I guess we can't.
Checking, still not the worst one ever, because we might have been angling for it the last few minutes.
Steve actually has an interesting question, but I don't think we had time to answer it.
What is it? Let me hear it now.
So why was your time at Expo so short lived? I didn't think you were there that short of a time. I thought you were there.
I was there for 6 months.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, I'm still working with them. So
I think let me answer it for you. It's because they thought they were getting a package deal and they thought I was coming along with you.
No, it wasn't them.
And then when I said, look, guys, I can't do exponential, they were like, well, we can't really get rid of Peyton. We'll just string them along and then we'll cut them.
So I still do stuff with and for Exponential, and I have for years. Like they would always joke around and say I was an honorary team member for years before, but working with them was amazing. And I loved, I'm a huge fan of Todd Wilson. That dude's amazing. Being around him is amazing. Dude is a mega genius. And, it takes a skill because he's got his hand in so many different pies, and
he was only a nuclear engineer, so
Oh, dude, one of the smartest people, hands down, I've ever met, and just he is who he says he is. Exponential are who they say they are. Like I was honored and proud to work with them. No bad blood. So you'll still see me pop up with Exponential, but for a full-time job, it was so busy that it was labor intensive, and it coming off the textbook those 6 months, man, it was like hopping off a rocket and jumping onto a spaceship, in warp speed. So it was a lot. And I remember at one point there were two things. One was I felt, and it was really hard call to make, but Chris Langham, the guy I handed Refuge Long Beach over to, and I'm on his board. He approached me and said, hey, we had a chat one night. He came and crashed here one night and we were talking, and he was just saying, hey, we need this and that. I'm thinking, well, that's what I do for Expo. And I said, I might be willing to come over there and help you guys. And he's like, you're kidding me. I would have never asked you because I never thought you would even do it. And I'm like, are you kidding, man? I never get to kick out my Bible jams anymore unless I'm planning. But even then I'm rotating and circulating others into the pulpit. to develop them. So gone are the days where I used to just labor in the word and doctrine, and I miss that. And at this stage in my life, I could really see doing that and leaving a legacy of that. And dude, the amount of people they reach, they've got right now, they're at 130,000 listens a day. I mean, there's not a stadium in America that can hold them. So it's like, I mean, so, it's amazing. And what's cool is I don't have to be famous on it. I don't, it's never going to put my name in lights. I get the joy of being able to influence as this faceless, just voice, putting the focus on Jesus. That's what I need in my life right now. Mm. And to be honest, there's no other way to say it, Steve, other than it was a tough call to make, because I felt like I had to choose between two awesome ventures, but I still believe in what Exponential's doing, and I would say definitely support them. And I will still continue to lend my talents and time to them.
And one of the key differences too, because I know you shared this with me, is Through the Word said, we'll hire you so long as Pete Mitchell doesn't come with you. So, I mean, it was like the exact opposite of Exponential. So, you know.
Yeah. And, it's really cool because they're still my friends. In fact, I just emailed the guy that was my boss, but he was rad. I emailed him today, and it was cool, man. Like I got to be at the kind of top tier of Exponential and see how the sausage is made. And great respect. So that was a tough call, Steve, to be honest. But I couldn't say no, because Chris is a ministry partner. He's been my friend. Our wives love each other. Like, we hang out as couples. It was just one of those things where it was a no-brainer.
I thought the bulletin at Refuge Long Beach was hilarious, because one day I'm reading it and it's like, our pastor, Peyton Jones, married to Andrea. Our other pastor, Chris Langham, married to Andrea. And I go, what kind of church is this?
Well, what's weird is we're all bald, and we're all married to
not the wives.
Women with
not the wives.
No, not the wives. No, it's not a cult, not yet, anyways. But I do my job well soon. So, anyways, hey, that's it, guys. I think it's time to sign off. But definitely, if you haven't listened to Through the Word, I brag about Chris Langham all the time. He's one of the best Bible teachers on the planet. Dude's so good. And if you go on there, there's an art form to 10 minutes. Doing a chapter summary, and dude's a master at it. So if you get a chance, I mean, you would be a lot richer in your preparation to use that. So anyways, but Leviticus, that was fun. And Pete and I used to laugh our butts off at that. I remember we did a whole episode on it once.
We did.
Going through it. And that was fun. It was a good time. So Song of Solomon, maybe we'll come back to that.
That'd be awesome.
Hey,
wait, before, let me ask you, while you're doing all this stuff at Through the Word and you're helping out all these pastors and ministers and whatnot, how do you have time for all the IRS compliancy and everything that a church plant needs? I mean, how do you do all that?
It's a very timely question, Pete, because today is the 13th of January, and by law, you have to have all of your end-of-year receipts out by the end of January. So those of you that are church planners, you just want to get in touch with simplifiedchurch.com. Tell you what they do is they'll do all those for you as part of their service. But they also, for $1 extra per letter, they include a letter that's like a personal thank you. And every year I do that. I write the letter and it gets popped in there. And but normally it's part of their service, but they'll, for that $1 extra. And I'm just telling you, like, stuff like that, it means a lot. It matters. So check them out. We've been with them for years. We love them. Josh Henry is an ex-church planter, so he gets it. He knows, and his staff is awesome. And their customer service, they'll give an agent to you that manages your church as well as others. And they just have really good customer service. They kind of become like friends to you. So check them out. They're not too awfully expensive. If you tell them you're a church planner and you came from us, I guarantee you they'll give you some kind of deal, because that was Josh and I's conversation early on, and he's treated everybody extremely well. So check them out, simplifiedchurch.com.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you sharing that.
All right. Well, this was a weird little episode, wasn't it? But it was fun. It was kind of like it was like Seinfeld. It was the episode about nothing.
Are you going to do the tagline?
Thanks for joining us for the Church Planner Podcast, the podcast about nothing. Where if you I got to remind you, if you want to reach them. If you want to reach the ones nobody's reaching, you need to go where nobody's going, like we did today, and do what nobody's doing. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planter Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplanterpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planter Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplantermagazine.com.